It's a humanitarian crisis that's been going on for more than a year, with little attention around the world. The almost million Rohingya Muslims who have fled their homes in Myanmar, where the United Nations has declared, quote, a classic case of ethnic cleansing, was carried out. And to warn you, what we're about to discuss is not easy to hear. Entire villages were burned, women raped and otherwise assaulted. Whole families brutally murdered, as described in a new documentary about these atrocities. Most who have escaped have landed in refugee camps and settlements in Bangladesh, where the conditions can be brutal and many are still dying. These are scenes that were captured by local filmmaker Nazda Alam, who now lives in Weston but grew up in Bangladesh and traveled back with her son to try to get some of these stories out to the world. The film is called Rohingya Atrocities Against Women. Nazda joins me now. Nazda, it's good to see you, and congratulations on a really powerful work. Sexual violence is a primary weapon of the Myanmar military against these Muslim minorities. Is this widespread, or you selected women who had been the victims of this? How widespread is this?
It is pretty widespread, but my plan was I wanted to show that why the women being used as a weapon in any kind of conflict, especially the war zone.
And you've mentioned that in other places, Bosnia, Rwanda, it's been done before. But what made it, as a viewer, even more painful than the horror that was visited on these women, to make it even more sadistic, they describe situations in your interviews where the Myanmar military purposely did it in front of their husbands, their children, and then in many cases murdered their children in front of them to just compound the pain.
It is absolutely vicious, and it seems like it was a plan, ethnic cleansing. So they killed the men, they tortured the women, they killed the children.
Why'd you leave the comfort of Weston to do this?
I am an activist with human rights for many years. Anywhere in that I try to make connection with that. But this time I have been involved with Rohingya activism in Boston. I was one of the organizers of the rally on 2017 in Boston Commons. And when I looked at the Senate hearing last year, to October 2017. And one thing, Senator Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, she mentioned about gender-based atrocity, and that clicked my mind that this is the one we can focus on, particularly this situation.
How hard was it to hear these stories? It's one thing to read about them in the paper, which is horrifying. When you're sitting with a woman, like the many women you interview, who have lived through this,
It's unbelievably sad and horrendous, and the woman was crying. We cried. We didn't take that picture, but it's not only rape. Their husband killed, family isolated, children killed. So like a layer of horrific.
Were they scared to speak? One of the things that surprised me about the film was their willingness, their courage, considering they are not in safe places, to talk to you about what happened to them.
My local team, we are contracting last whole year that who will be selected, who will be open. And what I noticed of this film, that Rohingya women are much more progressive than men. They are very well verbally expressive, and they are pretty much forthcoming. So what's happening?
It's amazing to me. The bravery is actually amazing. As I don't know much about Myanmar, but like many people watching, I know of Aung San Suu Kyi, who was celebrated years ago, wins a prize, is celebrated as this leader who is going to bring this country and its people out of the wilderness. She has basically stood by and allowed the military to perpetrate this violence, has she not?
That is shame. Shame.
And it's true, too,
yes,
is it not?
It is true. And I believe she's de facto leader. She has no power. But I think, as a woman, it is unbelievable that she's not doing anything.
I couldn't agree more. By the way, I want to show, on I think, a small positive note. Here's the Secretary General of the UN speaking about the situation, and you'll see what's interesting is while he's speaking, the camera focuses in your documentary on the delegate from Myanmar. Here it is.
The dramatic escalation of sectarian tensions in Myanmar's Rakhine State. A vicious circle of persecution, discrimination, radicalization, and violent repression has led more than 400,000 desperate people to flee, putting regional stability at risk.
I read just a couple of weeks ago about this deal between the UN and Myanmar government for repatriation of these almost 1 million refugees. Is that real, or is that just...
It's not real. They are still afraid that there is no security. There will be no safety net. So and also it's the Bangladesh and Myanmar, as far I heard, because I'm not in the policy where.
I understand that.
So what I have done, it's still very undecided and uncertain what would happen.
One last thing. I've heard words come out of the mouth of Nikki Haley, our ambassador to the UN, and the President of the United States, which have been very strong, directed at the violence. Has that had any, at least in a way that I would like to hear the President and the UN ambassador speak, has that had any impact at all, or no?
On the ground, no. I did not see that. It's more news and stuff, but the people on the ground, people in the Rohingya, refugee camps, still are very worried, and especially the Bangladesh is an overpopulated country, the size of Wisconsin, the state, and 1 million refugees is just highly burdensome.
Well, let me tell you, you and your son have made a major contribution by shining a light on this. Thank you, Nazda. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
so much to see it. If you'd like to see the film, there's a screening this Saturday at the Lexington Community Center. It's from 3 to 4 p.m.